Well, welcome to the second part of the walk. This is the Lichfield Canal, or in fact the old Worley and Essington Canal as it was called then. Came right the way through past this pumping station. It actually provided water for cooling the engines. So a lot of water was used from the canal, which went back into the canal. And the canal came down through here. Sadly, somebody built a concrete factory on the line of the canal and then built a load of houses on the site of the concrete factory. So we can't actually use this piece of canal. But it is the Heritage Towpath Trail, the old Heritage Towpath Trail, which goes right the way through, and you can actually walk through, come out at the Duke of Wellington and get back onto the canal. But we've had to divert the canal round the outside, and today what we're going to do is take you up to Fosseway Lane. Let's get walking.
How far is it up?
There's a halfway walk, which is about 300 metres or so up, and then back, and then there's a 600 and something odd metre walk to a bridge across the canal and back again. The old line of the canal ran through here. Sadly, as you can see, it's gardens and houses, and we've lost it.
Do you know where the canal ran here?
I could tell you probably if I got an old drawing. There are old drawings around that tell you exactly where it is, and it would be the dead giveaway would be the fence line to the railway line. Yes, but it's somewhere in here basically.
Always this side of the railway.
Always this side of the railway. Yeah, absolutely. We could probably have restored the canal in this piece through here up to the pumping station, but it wouldn't have gone anywhere.
No.
It would have been a dead end, and the problem we have got, of course, is somebody had already severed it by putting a road through.
Yes.
And we can't get across the road. Gather round. Well, welcome to the Fosseway Heath section of the Lichfield Canal. Where you're standing is the original line of the canal as it was before basically somebody built a road here. Unfortunately, the road severed the canal at this point. What you see in front of you is the old Lock 19, which took you down about 8 foot, between 8 and 10 feet, and you've been walking along the bed of the canal, which goes past the pumping station there. What we found was that we couldn't in fact use this route because somebody had built a concrete factory on it, and they'd sold a concrete factory and then built a load of houses. So many years ago the trust decided that we had to do a diversion route, and the canal has had to do a turn, hard right turn here, and we're following up the verge to right that we go over the top under Claypits Lane and then down towards the roundabout. We'll pick up on that a little later on today, but for now what we've got here is Fosseway Heath section. We have a large basin here which turns the boats through about 90 degrees, hard turn through a fairly narrow channel here. What we have done this year is entered our entry as the Lichfield Canal into the Lichfield in Bloom. We basically put in our horse, or os as they call it, the os. And the os was built by the volunteers. It's made out of sheet steel, welded together. It's about half scale, and it's towing a narrowboat over there, narrowboat Butty, and it's full with flowers. And Lichfield has again been awarded a gold medal for what we did. That's really, you could be really proud of all the entries. There was something like 24, 25 entries put in right the way through Lichfield, and all done by volunteers. You're on the Lichfield Canal. It's roughly 7 miles long. It's got 30 locks on it. It's got 30 pounds. And I think I mentioned earlier, but basically the original canal was built between 1794 and 1797. Precisely 3 years to build 30 locks, 30 bridges, 7 miles of canal, with probably the most sophisticated piece of equipment they had was a shovel and a wheelbarrow. I take my hat off to those guys. I know it was said to be canal mania, but those guys really knew what work was. And when you consider that the navvies of the time would probably get through 8,000 calories a day of food, I suspect just a tad of beer goes in there as well. But they worked their socks off. They were on piecework. If they didn't work, they didn't eat. So put that in your mind. And when people ask me how long is it going to take to restore the canal, well, frankly, if you give me, somebody got a checkbook in their back pocket, 40 million, we could do it in 3 years, because I've got machines, I've got all sorts of bits and sophisticated equipment. But at the moment we've got fabulous volunteers, and I'm going to show you some of what they do. Tuesday night before judging, the following morning, we actually had dogs that were totally and utterly spooked by it. And there was one lady who decided she was going to walk up and she was going to pat the horse. And she said she was going to tow her dog up the bank. And the dog said, no way. So that's the Oss. And there's the narrowboat over there. Please have a look at the displays. Chris is well known for not letting anybody through without buying a full book of tickets.
£10 for 5 tickets.
But you can buy just one ticket.
You can buy one ticket if you really must. This is the Fosseway Basin, sometimes called Lichfield Haven, and the original canal came down, and that is the remains of old Loch 19. And those who've been watching Facebook, you'll remember that there have been some swans, which were actually made by my wife over there, but they've been visiting all the bridges down from Capper's Lane down here, and they finally decided that this is the finest place to stop on old Loch 19, now called Swan Island from here on in. The wall you're standing on is a new wall. In order to get boats, 70-foot boats to turn here, a very tight turn with a very, very narrow entry to go up Green Bays up there, which is the canal going up over the top, under Claypit Lane and down to Birmingham Road roundabout. We'll pick up with that on the bus though. But basically a big wide turning area. Again, anybody looking on Facebook, you'll see that a 70-foot boat, we've got the mapping of how a boat passes through here. And boats can moor here and enjoy what there is here to see. Basically this work you see, everything you see here has all been built in less than 2 years here. And all by volunteers. And really this was all kick-started by a grant from the People's Postcode Lottery, which built basically the wetland area, which we're going to take you to in a minute. But this basically was a kick-start, and we've done this again with volunteers.
Do we have to line the bottom with that?
Will be eventually. Yes, it will be probably clay lined. Clay lined. We may use other things. We're working on some different systems that will work equally as well as clay.
Because we used to come on our bikes from Chase Terrace, and we used to come all around the lanes. It was just so different in those days. There was no traffic. It was just so different.
The reason we've left the nature trail here principally is that Railtrack, when we bought this land, said we can't fill within 2 meters of the hedge, the fence line. So we decided to make it a nature trail through here. We've still got to build up here, and the intention is that this will be lowland heathland created. The acid sands that we're digging out of that cutting will all fill up there, and this will be a beautiful, stop and listen. What can you hear? Nothing. It's absolutely gorgeous down here. It really is nice. We get lots of people walk through here now and do this walk that we're doing today. But please carry on.
Clear up after their dogs, so watch where
Yeah, sadly. This was a borrow pit to make that.
Yeah, of course.
I forgot to mention that, but we'll keep working.
So you used to walk along here before you started to work.
Yes.
I looked at it, I thought, well, the only thing is, they must have dug all this out.
The canal came first.
Yes.
And then this came second, and then that came third.
Yeah.
It's lovely, isn't it? Dave Gallagher.
Yeah.
He had lots of pictures of Lichfield. He has a meeting once a month.
Oh, right.
And he died.
Why is the canal so deep here?
It's only about 1.5 metres deep, up to water level, and there's about 300 mil of freeboard on that side.
After the Act of Abandonment in 1954, in the 1960s it was abandoned, and in fact from here on up was used as a tip, and an enormous amount of fill was dumped in there by local authorities. The land was sold to adjacent landowners, and it was used to fill whatever they could put in it. And there's a bit more about that later. Down here was a little more left was just a channel, but it grew absolutely wild. There was gorse in here, and it was a fire hazard at some time, and we've had to do several works. In addition, the farmer on the other side, from the end of this hedge for about nearly 150-200 metres, he encroached onto the towpath, took all of the towpath right up to the original wall. Rather than challenge the local farmer, we decided to move the towpath across, move the embankment on this side across by some 7 metres. So you'll see there's a great big kink in the line of the canal. And what we've created over there, with the help of the postcode lottery, we have created a wetland area, and that's the idea is that there's a drowned crest on the front of it, so boats can't go in there, can't disturb the flora and fauna that in fact will be growing there, and we put bridges across it to make it. The central part of it, of course, will be a teaching aid. There's an open air classroom for the students and the groups that come walking through here. It's had to rebuild this wall. The original wall had no mortar in it at all, because originally, and this is my theory, the water table was very high at this point, and water was coming through the wall, and all that wall had to do was in fact stop the towpath washing away. Then somebody built a pumping station just down the road there, pumped furiously, and the water table crashed out of sight. And we know exactly where the water table is down here. It has gone way out of sight, in fact. So all of this canal is bone dry. With the result, they were filling it with water from that end, and it was just pouring out to fill the aquifer basically through the walls. We can't do that. Water is precious nowadays. So what we've had to do is rebuild 350 metres of wall all the way down here. And in this instance, we've diverted out into the canal where we've moved it over. And everything you see there is new wall with a new towpath made on top. And quality towpath so people can walk on it and can actually take wheelchairs and disabled wheelchairs on there. All the land was sold off
By the waterways.
Yes.
There was a board, wasn't there?
Yes, the Waterways Board, British Waterways Board. So any of you actually recent visitors up here? Anybody who hasn't been here for a couple of years? Good. You'll spot subtle differences.
Like a big hole.
Well, the situation was that this was owned by a mixture of the local authority down here and a farmer down from there. And he used this as an area for tipping, and the area you've just walked up was completely impassable, and probably every 2 years we would go down there and try and cut the undergrowth down so we could actually get through. As of Christmas last year, we had a fabulous donation from Chasetown Civil Engineering of a very large excavator, about a 12-ton excavator and a dumper, and we put volunteers on that over the Christmas period for something like 14 days. We did even have some of our volunteers who worked on Christmas Day, and all of this material was re-landscaped to create what you see here today, a path that you can walk on, we can drive up it, we can maintain the thing, and we've created the nature reserve down the side, which we started talking about down there. This happened last Christmas, New Year, over the Christmas, New Year, and we had to give him the machine back, unfortunately, so he could carry on with his normal business with it. But we were really heartened when we recently had a work recovery group from the Inland Waterways Association. One of their guys came in and was an environmentalist, and she walked down that line and she said, you have, either by design or naturally, you have an amazing array of some quite rare plants have seeded themselves down there. And we're over the moon that has really become a nature reserve, and we're very, very proud of that. What we've done is, from here on up, is something which was done in the last 8 to 10 weeks. And again, we had 2 work recovery groups, and a third one came along. We had, again, plant loaned to us by Wacker and Chasetown Civil Engineering, and again, the whole of the basin from the Loch 18, up to the White Cottage, which is on Fosseway Lane, was all dug out in the space of 2 months. We've done an enormous amount of work here. This is basically 8 months' work, and we've done a lot of work, in fact, in clearing this particular piece here. We've exposed that piece of wall there. We have a relationship with 2 colleges, South Staffs College and Walsall College. And what they do is they send in their bricklayers, their trainee bricklayers, their level 1, level 2, level 3s, and they bring them in here and we give them real work experience. Basically, up to the point they arrive on site, have never ever built a wall that lived more than 12 hours. Because they build whatever it is in the workshop, and whether they build an arch, a fireplace or a window, it's knocked down. And we said, we want you to do some bricklaying. You are not students anymore. You are now professional bricklayers. You may be green, you may not have done a lot of bricklaying, but the bricks you put in that wall will be here for 200 years. What we have achieved in the last few days, we have cleared the top of this lock, put a new ramp in down that side, which is now accessible to somebody in a wheelchair, and we've actually put a bridge across the lock, so you don't have to scramble all the way down this batter to get across there. But basically that's in, and we've used corporates as well. We use a lot of corporates, Jaguar Land Rover, British Telecom. They send in 12 to 15, 16. The bigger ones can send in as many as 40. I've had a 43 size group come in from Eon once, but it's too many people. Try and find 43 shovels for 43 people to do useful work, and they do fabulous work. This lock here was in fact restored going back to 1997 and was opened by the trust, or reopened by the trust, 200 years after the original canal was opened. So we've come back here now. The original picnic table, it's looking a little sorry and sad for itself, but we've got a little bit of work to tidy up here. But we'll take you up to the bridge, point you up towards the top. We're not going to go up and walk up that way, but gives you an idea. That basin up there was built in the last 8 weeks. As you come over, look down the lock. It's quite a deep lock, this one. And you can see right up to Fosseway Lane, that was filled well over the towpath. This end was nearly ½ a metre, and at the far end it was 1 metre higher than the towpath level. And we've exposed the towpath, wall, and we've rebuilt the wall completely right the way through. We've got some new walls on a new alignment to put in right up at the top end, and we have some retaining walls, and of course sadly we're going to have to put a new bridge in underneath Fosseway Lane, for which we're trying to source some funding at the moment. But the lock itself was done by a fabulous amount of work going back with the bywash, the weirs. The lock itself was rebuilt, restoned. That's done 20 years ago. We believe that was a sidewash pound that was there between 1797 and in the 1840s, the Birmingham Canal Navigations purchased the Worley and Essington Company, and this became part of the BCN system, Birmingham Canal Navigation System, and they did a lot of repairs, and we know for a fact that there is a bywash down there that appears to have collapsed, and I think that may well be part of that bywash system. Our issue now is maintenance, and what we have now is a green and grounds team that are trying to maintain the hedges all the way along, keep them trimmed, laying the hedges, cutting the grass, and if anybody wants to do some work and wants to do a little bit of maintenance, please come and volunteer with us. We'd love you to come. We work currently about 7 days a week.
More or less 24 hours?
I did look recently and I realised that I'm currently working somewhere between 8 and 9 days a week, but that's me. Just for those that didn't know, this is the wetland area. This was what really was the start of this particular area with a postcode lottery fund, and we lost the towpath completely, which is the other side of that fence where the farmer took, and what we've done is we've basically brought it over here. We've made something of it, so made wetlands. We've lined that with clay. There's still some more clay to be put in there, and basically this will be a puddle area on the side of the canal. Boats won't disturb this, so this should become an absolute fabulous wildlife haven.
Just watch your foot there.
Yes.
Wooden balls. Nice.
Yes.
Nice.
This plastic is lovely stuff to work with. We've got a chippy who really enjoys it. This basically is the 350 metres of towpath wall that we've rebuilt over the last 2 years.
Yeah, it's been...
Using all the old recycled bricks as well.
Yeah,
and we've planted trees, specimen trees along. I mean, I think it just looks absolutely gorgeous, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'm with it, so it's just basically covered.
Yeah.
Dump it, start that end.
This on your left-hand side is basically the route of the canal as we come up through past Clay Pit Lane with a bridge there, and there will be 450 houses built on that site just beyond Clay Pit Lane, and there's a new bridge to go in underneath Clay Pit Lane, a deep cutting here, and the same on the other side. We come out of the deep cutting and go onwards down towards Birmingham Road. Now, Birmingham Road already has a tunnel underneath the roundabout, and that was put in some years ago when they built the original roundabout. Currently, the amazing amount of works you see there now is them putting the road bridge, which will go and be jacked underneath the railway this Christmas. It's the first time I've seen a Midland Red bus stop here. What we've got here at the moment is the main entrance for the works that Amy are doing to install a road bridge under the Cross City line. You just saw the trains passing through there, and this is a big job. That road bridge will be pushed into the railway over 5 days of a Christmas procession this coming Christmas, and they're currently frantically dropping piles in the ground to be ready for that, and they're going to be building the bridge on this side ready to push across. We also have a canal bridge to put in alongside that bridge behind the abutment, but probably about 2.5 metres below the road level to get underneath that same railway line. But we don't need a possession because we're going to be jacking the box underneath the railway with the railway still running over the top. This was last year's entry, Gallows Wharf, and in addition the narrowboat was painted on the side of the bridge walls by the local school, Queenscroft School, so hence we called it Rose Queen. And they were absolute angels when they came down here, and the concentration was something awesome to watch these kids. But we decided we would put in an entry for Lichfield in Bloom, one of the 24 or so that needed to go forward, and we said what we'll do is we'll do a garden of reflection, and we'll do a Gallows Wharf. You need a wharf to do that. We need to build a wharf wall. So from that green swathe with rubbish over this end here, 2 months basically we built all of that with volunteers. This was the general wharf for all materials that came into Lichfield, apart from the coal wharf here and the other wharves that were up in along a bit further into town. But this was a general wharf, and we believe that the Herkin Road glass, those who've been to the cathedral and seen the fabulous glass in the cathedral, we believe the glass came from Herkin Road in Flanders, was brought up by barge, by narrowboat, and was delivered to this wharf. And strangely, they left one of the crates here. So we took the top off and planted it. One of the other reasons is, why was it called Gallows Wharf? Well, there's a walnut tree, or was a walnut tree, they say, just over here, 100 metres away, and that's where something like 25 people were hung over the years, dating back to 1500s and beyond. We've got records of about 25 hangings there. The last were hung, and the last 3 people were hung here, 1810, and we actually have the newspaper, The Execution, Life, Parentage, Education and Behaviour of John Neve, William Waitman, for uttering forged Bank of England notes, and James Richard Jackson for forging and uttering bills of exchange. These truly unfortunate men received sentence of death on Wednesday the 18th of April 1810, and on Friday morning the 1st of June about 10 o'clock were attended by the sheriff, constables and other peace officers, who conducted them to the place of execution about a mile from the city of Lichfield. When, after devoting their last moments to prayer and repentance, making their final atonement to Almighty God for their transgressions through life, they were launched into eternity. In town, that's it. So it's pretty awesome. These last 3 guys were executed. None were executed after those 3. Their bodies are laid to rest in St Michael's churchyard, and you can see the churchyard. There's interesting comments, because they didn't like the idea of having any words on the headstones. I think the priest didn't like that. So it's almost an unmarked grave, but you can find it if you go looking. So we decided we would produce a garden of reflection. Can't be remembrance, but reflection. And that's the garden we planted. It had a lot more flowers in it, a lot more blousy flowers in it for last year, and we won a gold award, and the certificate is pinned up on the wall down there. So we're very, very proud of this. This was done by volunteers. We were also filmed by the BBC, and I think they really helped. The BBC did an absolute fabulous job of lifting and putting this canal trust really into the front page, and bringing the centre of gravity of Lichfield south to here, and to the hall down the road, which was also featured. This carries on through. We're going to walk up there a little bit, what we've called the Gallows Reach section, and you can see here the original towpath was here under the bridge, but basically this was all piled up. A lot of material has been removed from here to form that. The intention is to take it right the way through to London Road, and when we've exposed all the wall, we'll set about reinstating that wall, rebuilding the tops of it. It's not in bad condition. I've seen a lot worse than that elsewhere, but that's as it was exposed, and material from that we've put into an environmental mound on the back here. All the timber we've cut off the trees. Rather than burn the timbers, we've stacked the timber into bug hotels, and those bug hotels have been buried in that mound, which will become a beautiful habitat for invertebrates, which the birds will love. And with all the tree branches we've put off, they've all gone into it as well. And the intention is we will put some bird boxes up here. And what can you hear now? Birds. And there will be more birds as we work our way through. We work very hard on the environmental. Although we do an enormous amount for restoration, it's absolutely nothing if we don't do the environmental improvements as we're going along, and try and do everything we can to try and improve it. And anything else we can in fact plant in here to make it look natural. Well, this has been an absolute fabulous day today. We've had an absolute gorgeous time taking people along the Lichfield Canal, and it has been absolutely awesome as part of the Heritage Weekend, Lichfield's Heritage Weekend. It's been a great success from all the people that have joined us on this bus.